She was the bride chosen by God, considered his voice on earth. When a cross-shaped wound suddenly cracked open in her palm, the nuns immediately fell to their knees, weeping and worshipping the miraculous sign. Yet this holy woman under God's protection didn't take long before she took a wooden statue of the Virgin Mary, turning it into a personal object, and, along with another nun, helped each other in secret. She was lifted onto the scaffold erected by the church's envoy. Just as the flames were about to lick the hem of her dress, the miracle appeared once again. This woman, accused of blasphemy, caused the whole town to be stirred because of her. Today, we'll look at the film adapted from this true story, a religious epic. The Virgin Benedetta was born into a wealthy and devout Christian family. Even as a very young child, her parents wanted to send her to the convent for education. But on the way, some ruffians blocked their path. They knew that, back then, sending a girl to a convent required a considerable sum. They snatched her mother's gold necklace. Everyone else froze in fear, not daring to resist. Only Benedetta bravely stepped forward.
La Sainte Vierge fait tout ce que je lui demande. Vous l'entendez? C'est la voix de la Vierge.
Ah! Merde! Tiens!
They brought a cart full of fruits and fine wine to the convent and promised the abbess that for the next 25 years, she would always receive similar offerings. Yet the abbess was still not satisfied. Should the wife of Jesus not be worth 100 gold coins? After some bargaining, they were advised to add another 100 gold coins to convince the abbess to keep Benedetta. Under her father's influence, from the moment she entered the convent, Benedetta showed an unusually devout dedication to God. That night,
Je ne sais même pas si tu peux m'entendre là où je suis.
the sudden incident caused the nuns to panic and rush over. Yet the unbelievable happened. When the statue was lifted, Benedetta underneath was unharmed. This scene immediately shook the convent. The nuns all believed it was a miraculous sign, a special protection from God for Benedetta. 18 years passed quickly. Thanks to the miracle, Benedetta stood out in the convent. Her reputation for piety grew far and wide. One day, the nuns gathered to watch a play. Benedetta played a deceased believer, but when her gaze rested on the actor playing Jesus, she suddenly heard the bleating of sheep in her ears.
Benedetta! Viens à moi!
Benedetta, tes pieds!
That day, the convent doors were violently knocked. Her father quickly followed, shouting at her in front of everyone, roughly trying to drag her away until a bamboo stick was kicked aside by the priest. The girl seized the chance to run to the abbess, pleading to be allowed to stay. But the abbess said, "This is a convent, not a charity." Seeing this, the father immediately pulled his daughter back. Facing her desperate plea, Benedetta said, "Please help her, we will contribute the money for her." Despite the difficulties, the girl was ultimately allowed to stay. That afternoon, as Benedetta helped her bathe, she felt an irresistible attraction to the innocent girl. This attraction left Benedetta both bewildered and embarrassed, for in the convent environment and under the religious faith she upheld, such same-sex feelings were forbidden. Seeing the girl's legs covered in wounds, Benedetta asked, "What exactly have you been through?" But the girl responded coldly, "It was all my father's doing." The girl's name was Bartolomea. Her mother had died in the epidemic the previous year. From that day on, her father treated her as a replacement. He was utterly vile, committing unspeakable acts against her. Even when he was away, Bartolomea's brothers did the same. That morning, Bartolomea could no longer bear it.
T'avances plus près.
Je vois rien.
Alors tu te vois.
When they parted, Bartolomea kissed Benedetta first. But that kiss threw Benedetta into confusion and fear. She wondered whether this girl was some test sent by God, whether she needed love or was driven by mischief. The next day, the nuns sang hymns in the chapel. Bartolomea arrived late, unnoticed, and moved behind Benedetta, gently touching her back. This act triggered another hallucination for Benedetta.
Ce sont des démons qui tentaient de nous éloigner l'un de l'autre. Ni la vie ni la mort ne peuvent nous séparer. Mais ils sont stupides. Reste avec moi.
This vision symbolized faith. Her feelings for Bartolomea were like those monstrous feet, helpless, weak, and not frightening at all. So Benedetta sought out the priest to confirm one thing. Was what she had just seen truly Jesus, or merely a hallucination born of inner turmoil? The priest told her, only through suffering is the path to truly understand Christ. Yet this very lesson backfired for Bartholomew. The abbess's daughter, Chris, accidentally collided with her, sending items falling straight into a pot of boiling water. This unexpected accident became a trigger for Benedetta's inner conflict. When Benedetta ran over, she didn't defend Bartholomew. Instead, she threatened her. If she didn't pick everything up herself, Benedetta would hand her over to her father.
Tu veux que je recommence?
Maintenant le reste?
Arrête! Et alors?
On the surface, it seemed Benedetta hated Bartholomew out of love, believing she was obstructing her spiritual path. But deep inside, she was struggling with her own emotions. This extreme behavior was her way of suppressing feelings for Bartholomew. When the abbess learned of this, she called Benedetta in for a discussion. She couldn't understand, how deep must Benedetta's hatred be to act so ruthlessly? Yet Benedetta explained that she didn't hate Bartholomew, she actually felt pity for her plight. The priest had told her the previous day, enduring suffering is the only way to understand God. It is one's own pain, not someone else's. Ultimately, Benedetta was punished, no bread for a week and tasked with changing the senior nun's bedding for half a month. That night, her room echoed with heart-wrenching screams. She fell into another hallucination. A gang of bandits surrounded her, shot arrows into her hands, and attempted to harm her. At that moment, Jesus descended and wiped out the bandits. But as Benedetta thought she was saved, she looked closer. The man before her was not Jesus, but even more vicious than the bandits. Once unmasked, he flew into a rage, attempting to harm Benedetta during a violent struggle. Benedetta awoke from the hallucination. Such events made it impossible for anyone in the convent to rest. To care for Benedetta's mental state, Bartholomew requested from the abbess to share a room with her so she could watch over her.
Pourquoi tu es si cruel? Tu veux être avec moi? Moi, je veux être avec toi.
That night, Benedetta fell into yet another hallucination. She saw Jesus on the cross and heard him ask, "Will you use suffering to prove your love for me?" Then he told her to feel him. Benedetta approached and lifted the cloth, only to be shocked to see a girl before her. Then Benedetta and Jesus joined hands in prayer. In that moment, she felt the intense pain he endured on the cross. The agonized cries even woke Bartholomew. Even more astonishing, in reality, Benedetta's own body began showing wounds identical to those of Jesus during the Passion. These were the so-called stigmata, marks clearly appearing on her palms and other parts of her body, perfectly corresponding to the injuries of Christ. When the nuns saw these holy wounds, they were all astonished, believing them to be a grace granted by God to Benedetta, that she had inherited his will, becoming his messenger on earth. They fell to their knees in worship. But not everyone fully trusted these stigmata. In the abbess's eyes, if the holy marks on Benedetta were real, they would surely threaten her own position in the convent, even possibly forcing her to step down. So she invited doctors and church officials to examine Benedetta, aiming to prove that the wounds were fabricated. After careful examination, the doctors told the abbess that the wounds were too deep, unlike anything a human could inflict. The abbess, still clever, found another point to exploit. Jesus had worn the crown of thorns, and his forehead had bled, but Benedetta's forehead remained completely intact. This detail became her lifeline. Just as the two argued, Benedetta's anguished screams echoed down the hallway. Everyone rushed in, only to find her forehead covered in tomato sauce. This spectacle dispelled most people's confusion. Only the abbess and Chris noticed something unusual. Setting aside the wound on her forehead, how could the other details coincide so perfectly? And what about the shards of glass with blood on the floor? The evidence of fakery seemed too obvious. But before the abbess could even speak, the bishop declared Benedetta the wife of Jesus. Benedetta's rise to sainthood quickly spread throughout the town. People eagerly brought flowers and food to the convent, kneeling in reverence. Yet Chris remained skeptical. She was convinced that Benedetta was faking the miracles to gain the trust of the people and secure a high position in the convent. But the abbess countered, "Did you personally see Benedetta break the glass to create the wounds?" No. Chris's claim was mere speculation, insufficient to contradict the bishop's decision. The next day, the bishop immediately appointed Benedetta as the new abbess. The former abbess was demoted to an ordinary nun. At that moment, Chris suddenly slammed on the piano, interrupting the bishop. "Pardon my bluntness, but the abbess should be elected by the nuns in this convent. Let us choose a new abbess ourselves." Seeing Chris trying to make a scene, the old abbess intervened. She could only blink and watch the handover ceremony conclude. She moved out of the large room, leaving it for Benedetta to occupy the adjoining one. But before leaving, she left one last move. She let a clay jar fall against the wall, just revealing a small hole through which she could monitor Benedetta's every move. Chris, however, refused to give up. She couldn't understand why her mother trusted these fake stigmata and willingly relinquished power. Those in authority understood the implications. If they did not expose Benedetta, it meant they believed she should not be exposed. If Chris acted recklessly, they would destroy her. But young Chris didn't grasp her mother's warning. She went to the priest, accusing Benedetta of self-inflicting the wounds with broken glass, claiming it was blasphemy against God. Had she witnessed it herself? No. Thus, at the meeting the next morning, Chris pointed to Benedetta in front of everyone, accusing her of faking miracles and threatening to reveal the truth. The abbess, already aware of the facts, realized that relying on just the two of them would make it impossible to confront Benedetta and her followers. Instead of siding with Chris, she exposed Chris's lies, claiming that Chris had actually been present. As a result, Chris was publicly punished in humiliation. She couldn't bear the shame. When the comet appeared, Chris trained herself to fly, trying to prove she hadn't lied. Witnessing the matter firsthand, the abbess nearly collapsed completely. She saw the truth laid bare in all its injustice. From that moment, the feud between her and Benedetta went beyond mere power struggles. She even refused to let Benedetta perform the laying on of hands ritual for Chris, blaming her entirely for the incident. After Benedetta became abbess, her power and position in the convent reached its peak. Her relationship with Bartolomeo also grew bolder. The two often spent time together in private, like lovers, even carving the wooden statue of the Virgin Mary into a beautiful personal object. But little did they know, the old abbess had been watching through the crack in the wall. She had discovered Benedetta's critical weakness and finally had the evidence to confront her, to avenge her daughter and reclaim her authority. Full of hatred, she hurried to Florence to secretly inform the church envoy. When Bartolomeo heard news of the former abbess's whereabouts, she was extremely worried. Deep down, she knew that the so-called holy stigmata were only a setup by Benedetta to seize power. Once the secret was revealed, both of them would face ruin. Yet Benedetta paid it no mind, even teasing Bartolomeo provocatively. But the moment Bartolomeo mimicked her, Benedetta suddenly knelt in repentance. "Merciful Jesus, please do not let me continue to sin in this way. Sooner or later, the nuns will bring destruction upon themselves." Meanwhile, in Florence, the populace suffered under the ravages of the plague. Every day, countless people were carried away in coffins. When the church envoy heard that Benedetta had faked miracles and had a dubious relationship with Bartolomeo, he decided to personally investigate the convent. At the same time, people panicked under the sight of the comet, thinking it a terrible omen signaling the plague's approach. But this also became Benedetta's perfect opportunity to sway the people. She reassured them, telling them not to fear, claiming that Jesus had promised her the plague would never reach this place. Then Benedetta ordered the soldiers to close the city gates, both to block the plague outside and to prevent the church envoy from entering. "This is God's will. Lock the gates immediately." But just after the prayer ended, Benedetta suddenly collapsed and stopped breathing. The next day, just as Benedetta had anticipated, the envoy was blocked at the gate by soldiers under the pretext of preventing disease spread. When the two sides struggled without clear resolution, the bishop arrived with a detachment to open the city gates. Yet he had no intention of welcoming the envoy inside. He merely told him that Abbess Benedetta had died the night before. Nevertheless, the envoy pushed forward. When he tried to inspect Benedetta's condition, a miraculous thing happened. Benedetta opened her eyes. "Merciful Jesus, do not let go, do not let me leave you. I only want to stay by your side. I see the souls of everyone here, and it moves me to tears like rain. You have returned me to the world to save these people from the plague and from the unending flames of hell ready to engulf this place." She also said that Jesus promised her that as long as she lived, all others would live as well. Like the envoy, she remained unfazed by the frantic accusations. "You are charged with blasphemy, heresy, and desecration. The trial will begin tomorrow." At the trial, the old abbess, using the envoy as support, revealed everything she had witnessed. "I saw with my own eyes Benedetta and Bartolomeo behaving inappropriately before the statue of the Virgin Mary. The scene was an insult to the Virgin and to God himself. Those two should be ashamed. I felt pity for my own eyes. The proof is the wooden statue hidden in a book. It was defiled by them." Yet both Bartolomeo and Benedetta denied the old abbess's accusations. Therefore, the envoy took control of the entire convent in order to gather evidence. He treated Bartolomeo with an unimaginable level of care. At the same time, he also tried to probe Benedetta's sexual orientation. But Benedetta firmly insisted that her heart belonged only to God. While washing the envoy's feet, she noticed a black insect sucking blood from his leg, but Benedetta pretended not to see it. Meanwhile, Bartolomeo could no longer endure the envoy's intense care, so she finally told the truth and led him to the wooden statue of the Virgin Mary that they had created. Faced with the envoy's relentless questioning, Benedetta once again resorted to her old blasphemous trick. "You have committed a sin of disrespect. To disrespect my wife is to disrespect me before the cross. This is blasphemy." Once again, she borrowed the voice of Jesus to rebuke the envoy for showing disrespect toward her and Bartolomeo. The envoy, though, held greater power and did not trust her words. He sentenced Benedetta to death by fire. Bartolomeo was expelled from the convent, enduring immense humiliation and ridicule from the people. At that moment, the old abbess fell gravely ill. Seeing her symptoms, the envoy immediately recognized it as the sign of the Black Plague. He ordered her thrown into a dark cellar and had everything she had touched burned. Benedetta begged the envoy to allow her to pray with the old abbess one last time. He consented. When Benedetta met her, she realized the abbess was near death. She told her, "Your daughter is waiting for you. You will be reunited soon." At that moment, the old abbess also believed that Benedetta could truly hear Jesus. She longed to hear his final words, and those whispered words completely changed her perspective. The next day, as Benedetta was led to the execution grounds, her image reflected Jesus suffering on the cross, as if she were truly walking into divine salvation. Bartolomeo's actions at this moment resembled Judas's betrayal. "Tell me you do not hate me." "That is right, for I was born to be betrayed." Seeing the people start to resist, the envoy panicked. He said to Benedetta, "I will agree to replace the death by fire with a tightrope ordeal, but you must immediately confess your sins publicly." Then a miracle occurred. Before her death, Benedetta revealed the miracle once more. "You have betrayed my wife. None of you will escape. Death will cover this city, destroying everything like a violent storm." At that moment, the old abbess stepped forward among the crowd. She removed her black cloak, revealing her body ravaged by the plague, and loudly accused everyone. "It was the envoy who did this to me. He brought the disease here to terrorize the people." The envoy immediately ordered the soldiers to force Benedetta onto the scaffold. But after the recent spectacle, the crowd was horrified. They rushed through the guards, freeing Benedetta from her chains. While rescuing her, Bartolomeo discovered a shard of glass stained with blood beneath the pyre. She quickly hid it and helped the people free Benedetta. Seeing the envoy attempt to flee, the crowd captured him, tore off his garments, and dragged him to the town square. They unleashed their fear and anger over the plague on him. Eventually, he was killed by an overzealous bystander. Then Benedetta crouched and spoke to him. "Do you want me to pray for your soul? When you die, will you see the afterlife? Jesus has shown me all, past, present, and future. But what about me? Am I in heaven or hell?" "In heaven, yet until the last moment, you still lied." Amid the chaos, Benedetta escaped. She and Bartolomeo quietly left, while the old abbess stepped into the flames in despair. Benedetta and Bartolomeo could have gone far away and started a new life. But Benedetta made an unexpected decision. She wanted to return to the convent, for it was the place where she had vowed to live out the rest of her days. Finally, Benedetta returned to the convent, sinking once more into the vortex of faith. Love and power entwined in the misdeeds of a nun. How do you feel about this film? Share your thoughts in the comments below.